Society tells us that forgiveness is a virtue, that the bigger person always lets it go. But what if I told you that being too forgiving is actually destroying your mental health? Today, we are going to explore the dark psychology of people who forgive too easily, and why your kindness is exactly what's keeping you trapped. Think about the last time you accepted an apology. You smiled, you nodded, you said the words, "It's okay, don't worry about it." But the moment they walked away, or the moment you hung up the phone, a heavy, sinking feeling settled in your chest. You didn't feel peaceful. You didn't feel like the bigger person. You just felt exhausted and quietly, deeply resentful. We are taught from a very young age that forgiveness is the ultimate sign of moral superiority. Good people forgive. Strong people forgive. So, you forgive your partner for breaking your trust again. You forgive your friend for belittling you in public. You forgive your family members for crossing boundaries you spent years trying to build. You keep handing out second, third, and fourth chances, wearing your tolerance like a badge of honor. But let's be brutally honest for a moment. Are you actually forgiving them, or are you just submitting to them? In psychology, true forgiveness requires a resolution of negative feelings. It means the emotional debt is cleared, and you can move forward with genuine peace. But what habitual overforgivers do isn't forgiveness. It is conflict avoidance. You are not letting go of the pain. You are simply swallowing it. You do this because the thought of maintaining a boundary, of enduring the awkwardness, the confrontation, or the agonizing silent treatment feels entirely too overwhelming for your nervous system to handle. You forgive because you are simply too tired to fight. And this is the lie of tolerance. You convince yourself that you are acting out of unconditional love, but in reality, you are acting out of a desperate need to keep the peace. You are sacrificing your own internal reality just to stabilize the external environment. This behavioral pattern doesn't go unnoticed. In fact, it acts as a magnetic signal to a very specific type of person. Manipulators, highly toxic individuals, and those with narcissistic traits do not look at your endless forgiveness and think, "What a beautiful, generous soul, I should treat them better." They look at your forgiveness and think, "Perfect, I have found someone whose boundaries are negotiable." When you forgive too easily, you are essentially providing a toxic person with a detailed blueprint on how to mistreat you. You teach them that there are no real consequences to their actions, only temporary friction. They learn that an empty apology, a few tears, or just simply waiting for you to calm down will eventually reset the clock. You are not being magnanimous. You are unintentionally enabling your own emotional destruction. That bitter taste in your mouth after you forgive someone isn't a lack of grace. It is your intuition, screaming at you that you have just betrayed yourself again. Let's look at why you actually do this. If you are constantly forgiving people who do not deserve it, you might look at yourself in the mirror and think you just have a weak character. You don't. To understand your endless, exhausting well of forgiveness, we have to look past your personality and look directly at your nervous system. Most of us are familiar with the brain's standard biological responses to a threat: fight, flight, or freeze. But there is a fourth response, one that goes largely untalked about, yet it silently rules the lives of millions of people. It is called the Fawn Response. Fawning is a complex trauma response where a person seeks safety by appeasing the source of the threat. Instead of fighting back, running away, or shutting down, your brain decides that the absolute safest way to survive a conflict is to completely abandon your own needs and please the person who is hurting you. Notice what happens in your body the moment someone crosses your boundaries. Your chest tightens. Your mind races. The awkward silence or the tension between you and the other person feels like a physical weight crushing your lungs. In that agonizing space of conflict, your brain screams that the connection is breaking, and to a traumatized nervous system, a broken connection feels like death. So, you rush in to fix it. You offer the olive branch. You rationalize their bad behavior. You forgive them, sometimes before they even have the chance to actually apologize. You do all of this just to make the internal panic stop. But why did your brain choose fawning as its default setting? Why didn't it choose to fight back? To answer that, we have to go backward. We have to look at the environment where your nervous system was first programmed. We have to look at your childhood. As children, our survival depends entirely on our caregivers. We need them for food, for shelter, and for love. But what happens if the love you received was conditional? Think back for a moment. Were you only praised when you were the good kid? Were you ignored, punished, or emotionally shut out when you expressed anger, frustration, or sadness? Maybe you had a volatile parent, and you had to constantly read their mood, tiptoeing around the house to figure out if it was safe to speak. Or maybe it was more subtle. Maybe it was a parent who simply sighed and walked away when you cried, sending the quiet message that your negative emotions were a burden. If you grew up in an environment where love and attention were withdrawn the moment you were inconvenient, you learned a devastating lesson. You learned that standing up for yourself results in abandonment. You learned that to be loved, you must be compliant. You must be easy to deal with. You must become the peacemaker, the emotional shock absorber for everyone else's dysfunction. You learned that you must never, ever cause a problem. Your quick forgiveness today is not a sign of your moral high ground. It is the echo of a terrified child who believes that if they are difficult, they will be left all alone. When you sit there, listening to a hollow apology, nodding your head and saying, "It's okay," you aren't doing it because the pain is gone. You are doing it because, deep down in your subconscious, the fear of being abandoned is vastly more terrifying than the pain of being mistreated. You would rather endure the subtle, consistent disrespect of a toxic relationship than face the crushing weight of total isolation. You have associated conflict with abandonment and submission with connection, so you forgive. Not to heal the relationship, but to prevent the other person from leaving. I want you to really hear this next part. Let this sink in. Your inability to stay angry, your habit of forgiving too easily, it is not a character flaw. It is not cowardice. It is a brilliant, tragic survival strategy that kept you safe when you were small and powerless. Your brain did exactly what it needed to do to keep you connected to the people you depended on. You aren't weak. You are surviving. But you are no longer a child. You are an adult now. And the defense mechanism that saved you back then is the exact same mechanism that is destroying you today. Now that we understand the subconscious terror driving your behavior, we need to examine the conscious lie you tell yourself to make it bearable. We need to talk about hope. Toxic hope. When someone hurts you and you immediately forgive them, you likely tell yourself a very specific narrative. You tell yourself that your unconditional love, your infinite patience, and your boundless forgiveness will eventually be the thing that heals them. You believe that if you can just endure their darkness long enough, you will be the one to guide them into the light. In psychology, this is known as the savior complex. But in the context of toxic relationships, it is nothing more than a desperate illusion of control. You want to believe that your forgiveness has the power to change them, because the alternative, accepting that they are consciously choosing to hurt you and will never change, is simply too devastating to process. But here is the darkest part of this dynamic. Your brain is actually working against you. Have you ever wondered why it is so incredibly hard to walk away, even when you logically know the relationship is destroying your peace? It is because you are trapped in a behavioral phenomenon called intermittent reinforcement. Imagine a slot machine in a casino. If you pull the lever and lose every single time, you will quickly walk away. If you pull the lever and win every single time, it loses its thrill. But if you pull the lever and win randomly, just often enough to keep you guessing, you will sit in that chair until you have lost everything. This is exactly what toxic individuals do to your nervous system. They do not treat you terribly 100% of the time. If they did, it would be easy for you to leave. Instead, they treat you poorly, cross your boundaries, and disrespect you, right up until the exact moment they sense you are finally pulling away. And then, suddenly, they give you a breadcrumb. They offer a tearful apology. They buy you a thoughtful gift. They act like the loving, attentive person you so desperately want them to be. When this happens, your brain releases a massive surge of dopamine, the neurochemical associated with pleasure and reward. The stark contrast between the agonizing pain of their disrespect and the sudden, euphoric relief of their apology creates a deep psychological tether known as a trauma bond. You are not experiencing a profound, complicated love. You are experiencing a chemical addiction to the cycle of pain and relief. You become addicted to the reconciliation. And toxic people know this. They learn to weaponize their apologies. But an apology without changed behavior is not an apology. It is simply manipulation disguised as remorse. This leads us to the most brutal truth you must face. Your endless forgiveness does not make them a better person. It actually prevents them from ever becoming one. By constantly absorbing the emotional consequences of their actions, you are removing their accountability. Why would they ever do the painful, difficult work of changing their toxic behavior when you are always there, ready to forgive them for free? Every time you forgive someone who consistently refuses to change, you are not giving them a second chance. You are handing them a permission slip to hurt you again. Your forgiveness didn't teach them how to love you. It only taught them exactly what they can get away with. Let's take a moment to look at what is happening inside your body while you are busy being the bigger person. Your mind is incredibly skilled at rationalizing bad behavior. You can tell yourself that they didn't mean it, that they were just stressed, or that it is simply your duty to be the forgiving anchor in their chaotic life. But while your mind is spinning these stories, your body is quietly keeping the score. In psychology, there is a phenomenon known as somatization. It is what happens when emotional distress is pushed down so deeply that it has no choice but to manifest as physical pain. Think about the chronic exhaustion you feel that no amount of sleep can fix. Think about the unexplained tension in your neck and shoulders, the sudden digestive issues, or the way your heart races when your phone simply buzzes. When you force yourself to forgive someone before you have actually processed the anger of their betrayal, that anger does not just evaporate, it gets trapped in your nervous system. You are literally swallowing your pain to keep their peace. And over time, that suppressed emotion becomes toxic. Your body is staying in a prolonged state of hyperarousal, constantly braced for the next time they will cross a line. You are making yourself physically ill to maintain a relationship that is starving you emotionally. But the physical toll is only the beginning. The psychological cost is far more devastating. Every time you forgive someone for crossing a boundary, you are not just compromising on that specific issue, you are eroding your own identity. Boundaries are the invisible lines that define where you end and another person begins. They dictate what you value, what you believe, and what you absolutely will not tolerate. When you continually lower those boundaries to accommodate someone else's dysfunction, the lines of your identity begin to blur. Eventually, you look in the mirror and realize you don't even know who you are anymore. You don't know what you actually like, what you truly desire, or what your own opinions are, because your entire existence has been molded around predicting and managing the emotions of the person hurting you. You have shrunk yourself down to fit into a space that was never meant for you. And this leads to the most dangerous consequence of all, the silent rage. People pleasers and overforgivers often view themselves as gentle, calm individuals. But beneath that calm exterior is a deep, agonizing well of resentment. You cannot continually abandon yourself for someone else without eventually hating them for it. And worse, you begin to hate yourself. That forced forgiveness ferments. It turns into a dark, quiet bitterness that leaks into every other area of your life. You snap at the people who actually love you. You become cynical. You lose your capacity for genuine joy. You keep forgiving them because you are terrified of losing them. But I need you to understand the real tragedy here. In your desperate attempt to not lose this person, you are slowly, methodically losing yourself. So, how do we break this cycle? Do we just stop forgiving people altogether? Do we walk through the world with walls made of ice, refusing to let anyone in? No, that is just another trauma response. The goal of healing is not to become cold. The goal is to become discerning. We need to completely dismantle the way you have been taught to view forgiveness and replace it with a concept I call bounded forgiveness. The biggest cognitive distortion you suffer from is the belief that forgiveness and reconciliation are the exact same thing. They are not. Society has conditioned you to believe that if you truly forgive someone, you must restore them to their original position in your life, that you must invite them back into your home, your heart, or your daily routine. But psychologically speaking, forgiveness is a solo act. Reconciliation requires two people. Forgiveness simply means you are no longer willing to drink the poison of resentment. It means you accept that the past cannot be changed, and you release the emotional debt so it no longer consumes your energy. You can absolutely forgive someone, completely and entirely, from a very safe distance. You can forgive someone and still block their phone number. You can forgive someone and never speak to them again for the rest of your life. But what if they apologize? What if they stand in front of you, crying, begging for another chance? This is where you must apply a psychological boundary known as the rule of three. When you are highly empathetic, you tend to view every betrayal as an isolated mistake. You rationalize it. You tell yourself it was just a bad day. But human behavior operates in patterns, not isolated incidents. The rule of three is brutally simple. The first time someone crosses a major boundary, it might be a mistake, a lack of awareness. The second time, it is a conscious choice. But the third time? The third time is a deeply ingrained behavioral pattern, and you cannot fix a pattern with forgiveness. When someone offers you a repetitive apology without changing their behavior, they are offering you a fake apology. They are not actually remorseful for what they did, they are just sorry that you are upset because your anger is inconvenient for them. They are weaponizing the word sorry as a reset button to avoid accountability. From now on, your response to an empty apology must change. Instead of your nervous system taking over and automatically saying, "It's okay," you must train yourself to say, "I hear your apology, but I need to see a change in your actions before we can move forward." Notice how that feels in your body just hearing it. It feels terrifying, doesn't it? Because it shifts the accountability entirely back onto them. It stops the fawn response in its tracks and replaces it with a hard boundary. Bounded forgiveness means your heart remains soft, but your sanctuary is guarded. You are no longer giving away access to your peace for free. You are demanding that people earn the right to occupy space in your life, not through the poetry of their apologies, but through the quiet consistency of their changed behavior. When you finally decide to stop forgiving everyone who hurts you, I need to warn you about what will happen next. It will not be peaceful. In fact, it will probably feel incredibly chaotic. When you start implementing bounded forgiveness, the people who are used to walking all over you are going to push back. They will call you unforgiving. They will call you cold, selfish, or dramatic. They will try to trigger your abandonment wound to force you back into submission. This is the moment where most people pleasers break. This is the moment where the anxiety spikes, the guilt sets in, and you are tempted to apologize for having a boundary in the first place. But I want you to lean into that discomfort. I want you to look at their anger not as a sign that you are doing something wrong, but as absolute, undeniable proof that your boundaries are finally working. Their anger is a psychological filtration system. When you refuse to freely hand out your forgiveness, the people who only loved you for what they could get away with will eventually leave. Let them leave. Their exit is making room for people who will love you for who you are, not for how much abuse you can tolerate. Refusing to forgive someone who refuses to change is not an act of cruelty. It is a quiet, radical revolution. It is the moment you finally stop abandoning yourself to keep someone else comfortable. For your entire life, you have been playing a rigged game. You believed that if you were just understanding enough, patient enough, and forgiving enough, you would eventually earn the deep, unconditional love you were denied as a child. But you cannot negotiate your way into being valued. You cannot love someone into treating you with respect. The validation you have been desperately seeking from these toxic individuals is something they simply do not possess. You are knocking on an empty door. It is time to stop knocking. It is time to turn around and give that exact same bottomless patience and boundless empathy to the one person who has been starved of it your entire life, yourself. You do not have to be the designated shock absorber for the world's dysfunction anymore. You are allowed to be angry. You are allowed to be disappointed. You are allowed to look at someone you care deeply about, acknowledge that they are broken, and consciously decide that it is not your job to fix them. You are safe now. The child inside you who had to fawn and please just to survive is no longer in danger. You are an adult, and you have the power to protect that inner child fiercely. Your kindness is a gift, a rare and beautiful currency in a world that is often harsh. Stop spending it on people who do not value its worth. If you have made it to the end of this video, it tells me that you are finally ready to stop swallowing your pain and start reclaiming your peace. You are doing the incredibly heavy, quiet work of healing, and you should be profoundly proud of yourself. If this message resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel. We explore the deepest, darkest corners of human psychology and emotional healing here, and I would love to have you as part of our community. Before you go, I want to hear from you. Healing is not a linear journey, and setting boundaries is terrifying. Go down to the comments and tell me, what is the absolute hardest part about setting a boundary with someone you love? Let's talk about it. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your courage. And remember, your peace is worth protecting. I will see you in the next one.